1st of January onwards. Alright? Yeah, well, is he coming? So, there you go. They are not to list anything until they've done the training after the new year. Sorry guys, but it's quite significant changes that need to be dealt with correctly. So anyone who's told me they're not coming, I've said that's fine. You're not listing anything from January onwards until you catch up and prove to Ryan and I that you're actually on top of it.
What's happened to your voice?
Oh, mate, this has got yeah, I've been up. I started in Kiri on Monday morning. I've done this 6 times so far. I know, I actually lost it over the weekend to be fair. I've been sick. I haven't even been drinking, that's how boring I've been. Yeah, that's the problem. I know, I should have, that would have sorted it, right? The alcohol would have got rid of the bugs. That's exactly right. Okay guys, we might get hot in here, but Ruth, can you just play with that if we do? We're going to get underway. It's recording? Oh, we're underway. Okay, we're underway team. Right, AML. First off, what is AML? I have had a couple of questions. It is anti-money laundering. You will have seen in the news potentially, but basically it is new legislation in New Zealand that's come into effect in the last year. So lawyers have had to change their practices and get on top of it as of the 1st of July. Accountants were the 1st of October, and real estate agents are the 1st of January. The banks are already compliant on it too, so the banks are underway in new AML. So AML laws, actually the legislation that's now in place in New Zealand really is catching us up with the rest of the world as far as anti-money laundering regulations in Western countries. So any other Western country you go to pretty much already has very similar legislation and requirements in place. New Zealand's been on the naughty list, and considering we are a Western, society, actually this is overdue legislation in New Zealand. So anywhere, if you go to the States, you go to the UK, you go to any, Western type, capitalist type environment, they will have this legislation. Those that don't tend to be more of most of Africa don't, have good legislation as far as money laundering, quite a bit of South America and certain other countries. You think about it, Afghanistan, and they're pretty obvious, the sort of countries who are not on top of, cleaning money, if you like. So it's good that this is happening, but real estate agents have been captured. And so the good news is that this is good for New Zealand and good to try and get on top of these crims that are hiding money. New Zealand has been a real haven, especially our property market. But one piece of big legislation this year that's also helped anti-money laundering in New Zealand, as you can guess, is also the OAO, the Overseas Investment Act, changing. So that's actually gone a long way to probably helping tidy this up, but the AML laws are going even further. So we have some pretty strict compliance that we're now going to have to operate under, and my job is to tell you a little bit about the why, but today I'm going to focus on the how. So what do you do to be compliant? What do you guys have to do on a day-to-day basis to make sure we are staying within the law of the AML? So money laundering, just so you know, is a method to disguise illegal origins of wealth in order to protect and enjoy their assets. You got one of those? Anyone who's come in, make sure you've got the hand out. So financiers of terrorism. So not as relevant to us, and you'd think, well, in New Zealand, why do we need this? But actually, it's captured under the same law. So just so you know, if you see FT is financiers of terrorism, it's captured under that same AML law, and that is similar techniques to avoid detection by authorities and protect the identity of those providing and receiving funds for terrorist activities. Now, okay, New Zealand probably doesn't get a lot of that, but you think about the gangs and that sort of stuff, there's a lot of money laundering goes on there, and actually Australia's had big examples of terrorism attacks, and they have detected these crimes, a lot of it through their money dealings and where the money's travelling. So this is how they detect them. So just so you know, that is also captured into this law. So money laundering is after the illegal funds have been generated, and therefore the focus is on detection. They want information from us. This is all about us information gathering on behalf of the New Zealand Police. Okay? Terrorist financing is the focus is on preventing the criminal activity from occurring. So money laundering, there are 3 stages. The first is placement. This is the one we're involved in. It introduces illegitimate cash into the financial system. The second is the layering. It involves undertaking multiple transactions to confuse the audit trail and distance the money from origins to disguise the source of ownership and funds. This is where the banks often get involved and start seeing layering going on. Integration introduces the laundered money into the legitimate economy so that it appears as a clean or legitimate source of funds. So why real estate? Why have we been targeted and encapsulated into this new legislation? Basically, police believe $1.6 billion of crime proceeds is laundered in New Zealand each year. They suspect much of it is being cleaned through the property market. Criminals have successfully purchased property with ill-gotten gains in more than half of 57 cases where police have confiscated assets. And according to the International Police, real estate makes up 30% of confiscated assets worldwide. So there's a massive laundering going on property, especially previously in New Zealand where we've had no identification or AML laws, we've had no fringe benefit tax or capital gains tax, and we've had no OAO, so anyone from anywhere in the world has been able to come and buy property in our part of the world. So you can imagine we've been rife for it, and they're just cleaning all of that up. So from 2002 to 2014, there were 41 suspicious transaction reports, STRs, you get used to this terminology, filed by real estate, with the majority being due to large cash deposits. So in other words, that's a tiny, tiny amount of STRs. So previously, under current law and under current compliance, the only time we have to report anything suspicious is if we receive a cash deposit or cash from a client of $10,000 or more in folding. So that actually happens very rarely these days. But in the old days we did used to see it a bit. You know, the old dairy owner with a sack full of cash, or, you know, that sort of thing.
I had that.
You've had it, yeah?
Old lady didn't believe in banks, bought a big pile.
Big pile of cash in. So basically, previously, if it's $10,000 plus, we'd have to report it, and that was all we had to do. That's changed now significantly. We've still got to report cash, but we've also got to report a whole load of other stuff. So, AML Act obligations. These are what we have to do. We've got a high level of obligations and responsibilities on reporting entities. Reporting entities, Mackey's Real Estate is a reporting entity. So Bailey's nationally can't be a reporting entity. We're licensed under REAA, so we are captured as a reporting entity under REA. Does that make sense? So Mackey's has to be compliant and have our own manuals and our own program and our own reporting, and we can't just go, oh, we're with them, you know? We've got to run our entire own thing, right? So that's what Ruth and I have been working on for the last few months, getting that all in place. We've got increased customer identification and verification. So this is what you guys are going to do. This is the day-to-day running of it. So you guys are going to have to know your customer, who your customers are, who the beneficial owners are, and who exercises control over purchase of selling real estate.
Customer in that instance is client.
I will talk you through that, not necessarily. Ongoing customer due diligence and transaction monitoring. Again, that's going to be you guys. That's going to be predominantly vendors, but there are situations where it will be purchasers. For Sandy, it is property manager owners, not tenants. Because we sign a legal document with that owner and we are acting on their behalf, then we have a legal, they are a client, if that makes sense. So at this point, according to the DAA, they are captured. We're still hoping they'll shift their position on that. Suspicious activity reporting, that is us reporting to the DIA on anything we see that's suspicious. Huh? Department of Internal Affairs. So when I say DIA, Department of Internal Affairs, they are the ones that are pushing all this out, giving us the direction, and they're the ones that we report to on an annual basis. If we want to lodge an SAR, that's who we lodge it with. And Ruth and I now have a login to a website for reporting, which goes straight through to the Department of Internal Affairs. So it's a lot of, big change. Employee vetting and training. So we now have a requirement. We don't need to police vet you guys as far as licensees, because you're actually already police vetted through the REA. So because we're police vetted through REA annually when we renew our licenses, you guys are fine. We don't have to, we know that you're already police vetted. But key people in our organisation, employees, are going to need to be police vetted as part of the employment process from now on. So there's going to have to be that go on. So, you can imagine those roles are sort of Joe and Renee, Ruth, those sort of senior roles that are dealing with our money and the reporting and that sort of thing need to go through police vetting. So don't be offended if you get police vetted. It is now actually a legal requirement for us to do that. And there is a requirement for independent auditing and annual reporting. So Ruth and I will need to report annually to the DIA on what is happening in our business, and they want quite detailed analysis of who our customers are. And we also have to get independently audited every 2 years. So it's not just like, remember we did health and safety? It was a little bit like a set and forget. Get the manual done, train you, put a few forms on the cloud, do a couple of things, but really then it was actually let's get on with it. This is a lot higher level compliance. So this is actually audited. So when we're a bit strict on the paperwork, there's a reason, and that is because we will be audited and we have to be compliant, and there are fines in place if we're not. Our compliance AML program that I've written is a moving document. It has to be updated every year. The number of transactions we do has to be updated every year. What's coming through our trust account, all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot more to it. It's quite a significant change in the background, and quite a lot of compliance for a real estate agency.
Is that CFT compliance? What's CFT?
CFT is the financiers of terrorism. So remember I said that you'll start to see it work alongside AML? Yeah, it's actually the financiers of terrorism. Okay, so the program, and we've got 4 manuals for the business, one of which is a risk assessment done on our business based on our numbers and who our clients are and what our risk is. All of that will be made available on the cloud, so if you really want to have a decent read and put yourself to sleep, you're very welcome to read it. And the compliance program will be put on the cloud for you guys as well. So all that will be available for you to read, like the program guidelines, everything, if you want to. At the moment today, I'm going to focus on what you need to do moving forward from the 1st of January to comply, but feel free to go back and read all the paperwork. We must conduct customer identification verification in the following circumstances. Now, see that customer due diligence up the top there? We're going to get very used, in our industry we have lots of acronyms and lots of, CDD is going to become a common term for us. So CDD is customer due diligence, and you will start to hear it because the girls, if you haven't done your CDD correctly, in listing stage, the girls will go, hey, your CDD is not complete, right? So you'll start to hear that, I think, as a common term, CDD, customer due diligence. What customer due diligence is us putting the customer, getting them to fill in the correct forms, give us the right information, give us their ID and their verification, okay? So where we have to do CDD is if Bailey's establishes a business relationship with a new client. So a business relationship is an agency agreement, okay? So any agency agreement, every vendor from the 1st of January, we need to do CDD on, So if you've got a buyer's agency for whatever reason, that is a business relationship, you're doing the agency, then the buyer would need CDD on. There are situations where the buyers will need CDD done on them, but on the majority, 99% of the time, we are focused on the vendor. Good news is, 12 months ago, we actually were told by the Department of Internal Affairs that it was going to be us doing CDD on both vendors and purchasers, which is double the job and a lot harder with purchasers, really. But the good news is that the decision is that we focus on the vendors at this point, and in certain circumstances the buyers, and I'll talk you through what those circumstances would be. Okay, so if a client, is that my computer? Just make sure I'm actually plugged in there. So if a client seeks to conduct an occasional transaction or occasional activity through Baileys, so this is where a buyer will need to have CDD done on them. The example of that, and this will affect Joe, and Joe will be pushing back on you guys, if you sign a conditional agreement and the purchaser pays a deposit and that deal falls, you will need to do CDD on the purchaser to be able to send the deposit directly back to them. Because that is us paying money out of our trust account to them. Which kind of makes sense. Cleaning the funds, because actually a lot of money laundering is done through people signing sale and purchase agreements with big deposits with no intention of ever going ahead. They're using those funds and then they're in our trust account and out again. So the best way around that is, as a default, we will send deposits back. If it's a purchaser's deposit going back to them, we will send it back to their lawyer. If we do that, then it's the lawyer's responsibility to do the CDD. If they want it directly into their account, then we need to undertake ID and verification, and that will include getting a bank statement from them to show their name and the bank account number that they wanted in to verify that that cheque's going to their account, the source of where it came from. Does that make sense?
So what we're filling out at the moment
Yeah.
with an offer is not CDD, that's just getting their...
No, it's not.
Right, because I was thinking we've already done it, but there's another form coming.
No, there's another form coming. So CDD is another step beyond. It's a bit more intrusive than what we've had previously. So the only other change is if there is a material change in the nature or purpose of the business relationship with an existing client, or if Baileys considers that it has insufficient information. So where you will have to do CDD, if you have existing agencies currently and they are due for extension in January, I'd suggest you get them extended in December, because in December you don't need to do CDD on them. Come 1st of January, anything you're extending then triggers the CDD process. And I know you don't know what that CDD process is, but I'm about to talk you through it. So if you've got stuff coming off agency, can you take one and pass those round, please? Take one and pass them round.
Christy, in terms of the refund, is it also sort of set at the 10,000?
No. No. Any refund.
Any amount.
Any amount. Any amount of money that we're sending back to a purchaser, we will need to ID them effectively to send it back into their account. If we send it to their solicitor, then their lawyer has done the job. Okay, another example of where we need to do CDD on a purchaser is if we receive a personal cheque from them. So the good news is that, has everyone got that one? You've got it? The good news is that we don't actually get a lot of personal cheques these days. We actually now we don't want them. So we have to encourage purchasers to either get us a bank cheque is fine, or they need to electronically transfer the funds into our trust account. Because if the electronic funds are received into our trust account, which is how 99% of our deposits are paid, then the bank has ID'd that person, we're okay to receive it. Does that make sense? We can still receive a personal cheque, but you will need to undergo the forms, which is a bit of a pain. So it's best, to be honest, to just get them to do it by the bank.
So when the refund's coming from a bank transaction deposit?
Yep, that's fine. No, it doesn't matter. It's got to go to the solicitor. So it's a personal cheque is considered high risk, so therefore has to have CDD done on it. It's a separate issue.
So when the deposit's returned though?
Yep.
So that just automatically goes, we don't have to do that because it's done straight?
No, it goes, no, it's done automatically. It's done by electronic transfer. We electronically transfer it to the solicitor's bank trust account. He would have to do CDD on that purchaser before he gave it back to him, or he would have already done
And
it.
what happens if it comes directly back though?
What do you mean?
It still goes back to the purchasers?
Bank able to profit.
Yeah, no, it still goes back to the solicitor. Or goes back to the purchaser if they can prove that, you see, it comes from the bank but from that account. We know which account it's come from. Yeah, so that would be a situation. So like in a tender situation, who didn't turn their phone off? In a tender situation, you know how purchasers will attach a cheque? So that's fine. And the other question I had the other day was, but hold on, I like to get my purchasers to attach a cheque to show intent.
Doesn't get banked.
No, it's the old days. You know, we used to do that
When
a
you just
lot.
hold on to it.
Yeah. So what you do, you can still do that, but hold on to it, don't deposit it. And then if they are the successful tenderer or the successful purchaser, then just say, listen, is it all right with you if I just, you know, rip up the cheque or give it back to you and you electronically transfer that money? Because then that's fine, okay? So for whatever reason they think personal cheques are a risk, they want funds to come via banks because banks have to clean it, we have to clean it, you know? So yeah, those are the situations. So let's have a look at handout 1, guys. We'll work through this together. This is the 3 forms that you are most likely to need your clients, your vendors to fill out. The first is individuals. The 3 are individuals, companies, and trusts. Individuals is the easiest one. I'll just quickly talk about this customer due diligence. We have to undertake it on the customer. We also have to undertake it on the beneficial owner of the customer. So if you think about that from a company perspective, that's the shareholders of a company. Okay? I'll talk about what a beneficial owner is. We also have to undertake it on any person acting on behalf of a customer. So if you've got a son acting on behalf of mum who's going into a retirement village, you have to do CDD on mum and on the son because he's acting on behalf of mum. Trust, coming to that. It's a whole other thing. I'm going to go through the trust form. Trust is going to be bigger. Trust is where it gets difficult. Individuals are not that hard. Beneficial owner means an individual who owns greater than 25% of the customer. So for the commercial guys, it's a lot harder job for them. That's why they're going to have to do more training. I'm going to have to do some separate training for them because we're actually, when we list a company on behalf of a company, the commercial stuff, predominantly, we're going to need to drill down onto who is the customer, who is the beneficial owner, and sometimes that can be 2 or 3 layers of ownership before you actually work out if someone owns 25%, you know, because a company can own shares, can own Anyway, an individual who has effective control of the customer, so that would be like the managing director of a company, right? They're making the decisions, but they're not actually a shareholder. They're still what we call a beneficial owner, and a person who's on whose behalf a transaction is conducted. So, for example, public trust would be a beneficial owner, effectively, of the property because they are acting on behalf of someone. So a beneficial owner is an individual who satisfies any one element or any combination of the 3 elements, and a beneficial owner is an individual or natural person. There may be more than one beneficial owner associated with the customer. So you can't say, well, the company is the beneficial owner. You have to find a person behind the company. So, this is what I wanted to get to, the individuals. The 3 things we need for individuals, and this is what this form is going to help us with. Name, date of birth, residential address. You need verification of those 3. This is really standard if you've tried to open a bank account recently, or tried to do a transaction with the bank, or with your solicitor. They're asking for all this information constantly if they don't have it already. So let's just have a look at this form. Individuals. Ruth, it says company details. I think that should say individual details, by the way. I think there's a couple of mistakes in these forms before we put them live. Individual details, there's the person fills that out. B, the nature and purpose of engaging Baileys. Please let us know the type of activity you're looking to undertake, the service you require from us, and the reason for that service. For example, sales of the family home due to moving cities, sale of investment property due to retirement, acting as a trustee for a trading trust. So we just need one sentence in there of what they're doing. It's not enough to say sell the property. You have to say sell the property to move to Naka, or, sell the family home. One sentence, but yeah, evidently required. If we turn over, authorised person. So this is optional, it's only if you've got an authorised person doing it. There's any authorised person that may act on your behalf in their relationship to you. The authorised person must also complete a client information form for individuals. So full name. So this is if your son is acting for mum. It's also if you had a power of attorney. So if you've got a power of attorney or a guardian, something like that. This is fun. Politically exposed people. Politically exposed people are PEEPs. PEPs. Are you or is any immediate family member an individual who holds or has held at any time in the preceding 12 months a prominent public function other than in New Zealand? A prominent public function means the head of a country, government minister, senior politician, senior judge, governor of a central bank, ambassador, high commissioner, high-ranking member of the armed forces, or senior position of state enterprise in other overseas country. Amazing. So, it doesn't mean you can't deal with those people. Actually, the chances of you coming across one are pretty slim. In fairness, when I did this up in the Bay of Islands, Irene Bremner, who looks after the Bay of Islands, went, yeah, I've got a couple of those. Like an ambassador or whatever, it's got a bolt hole up in the middle of nowhere in the Bay of Islands, A few foreigners do. It's only foreigners, it's not Kiwis that are politically exposed. But it's fine, you can deal with those people, but we do need to do some enhanced due diligence if we list a property that they own. Okay? Most 99.9% is going to be a no. Just move on. Shareholding on behalf. Again, Ruth, that E, I don't think that's the right heading. Anyway, please complete option 1 by checking the box, or option 2. ID. What ID do we need? How do we get it? If you have a New Zealand passport, or a passport, New Zealand passport, or an overseas passport, that is enough. You only need that. But if you haven't got a passport, you need to have a driver's license plus another form. So on the option 2 is a New Zealand driver's license plus one other document, like a bank statement or a birth certificate.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Because passports expire, right?
Yep.
So
It has to be current.
So, okay, because it doesn't say current.
I know, but it is. It's current.
Okay.
Current New Zealand passport. Now, if you've got a current New Zealand passport and you're sitting face to face with that person, you're viewing their passport, you can ID it, you can verify it. You can take a photocopy of it and write on it, verified as original, and sign it. If you are not face to face with them, they need to get that verified and send it to you. And they can get that verified by a solicitor, justice of the peace, a policeman. There's a list, and the list is in here. So if you're face to face, you do it. If you're not face to face, they need to send you some verified ID. So if they're in Hamilton, they need to get their ID verified by someone and scan or and email it through to you. Proof of address, F. You need a proof of address. Now that address does not need to be the address you are selling. So it could be an investment property. They don't live at the property. The address that you want proof of is the address that they've used in Section A. Right? So think about it from an individual perspective. Don't think about it from the property perspective. Right? You don't need, when they put their address, you actually want their address. You're IDing the person, not the property. So it's okay if they've got an investment property in Orewa and they live in Milford and they give you their Milford address and the proof of address is their Milford home. That's fine. It's that person you're IDing. Proof of address, enhanced customer due diligence. You're not going to need that on individuals, but I'm going to come back to that with regards to trusts. Then if you turn over onto page 4, there's who can verify their ID. There's a privacy statement there, and there's confirmation signature. So Mrs. Jones, down the road in Alice Ave, you've listed her house, it's in her name, she's an individual, you've ascertained it's not a trust, she has just owned it as an individual. She fills out this form, gives you her ID and a proof of address, boom, you're done. Okay, does that make sense? It only gets more complex when we get into trusts.
Are we going to have little stamps or something that we can have instead of writing this out each time?
No, it has to be written.
Oh.
But you don't have to write. That's a lawyer, that lawyers have the stamps. You can just go certified as original and sign it. It's fine.
Do you have to put a date on it?
Yes, it has to be dated. IDs are valid for 12 months. So like I've got a certified copy of my passport that I got done a little while ago. I could still use it, but I can only use it for 12 months. Okay, companies. I'm not going to go over this, but the commercial guys are going to need separate training on this because the companies is more complex. It's with regards to the beneficial owners. So companies, they're going to need ID on the company number. They're going to need the certificate of incorporation, but we'll be able to do it through Property Suite. And we're going to need the names of persons to verify who owns 25% of the customer. So there's more to it with companies and drilling down to work out who actually are the owners. It's going to be tough on some situations, but that's fine. So I'm not going to go over that. The form is here, but let's talk about trusts because trust is a big one for us. A lot of our owners have their family home in trusts. Unfortunately, trusts are deemed to be high risk. Even though they're very common in New Zealand, they are considered high risk by the Department of Internal Affairs. So, if you are listing something where the family home is in a trust, then there is what we call enhanced due diligence. So, the client needs to fill out the trust form, and then each trustee will need to fill out the individual form. It gets worse. So there's the trust details in A, the nature and purpose for engaging Baileys in B, proof of address, boom. Just make sure the address they use for the trust is corresponds with the proof of address. If that's their home address, that's fine. If it's mum and dad's trust and it's, you know, for the family home, their home address is fine. Trustee details. So this is where you list the trustees. So this could be mum and dad are the trustees and they have a corporate trustee. So their lawyer is their trustee, but their lawyer's probably not their trustee with their own name. They're probably trustee company limited. Then they're a corporate trustee and there's a spot in E where you put that details and the company number of that corporate trustee, which is available.
Is there a company sent off, pushes back into a company?
No, it doesn't. It's fine. It pushes you back into the individual one because they're a trustee, they've still got to fill out, but yeah, no, you're okay. Beneficiary details. F, If your trust has 10 or more beneficiaries or is a discretionary trust. Now, a discretionary trust, guys, is what most trusts in New Zealand are, especially the ones that own the family homes. The discretionary trust is where they don't name the beneficiaries, but the beneficiaries are a category. Like my family trust is my children are my beneficiaries, right? So that is a category. Or your wife is a beneficiary, that is a category. So what you need to do here, describe each class or type of beneficiary. So in this case, if it was me, it would be children and, or children of Kirsty Mackey are the beneficiaries of my trust.
But if it was named?
If it was named, then you name the beneficiaries. Yeah, you do. If they are named in the trust document, you name them here. If your trust has 10 or more beneficiaries, or is a discretionary trust, describe each class or type. If they're less than 10 beneficiaries, you actually write the names of the beneficiaries because they will be on the trust document. It's unusual to have them, but you do get them where they're named beneficiaries.
So you'd have to cite that trust document.
You've got to get the trust document. You will get a copy of the trust deed as part of this. Correct. I know.
How many people tried it?
Well, their lawyer should have it.
It's really digging into the privacy.
It is.
Getting ready.
It's the law. We are just like lawyers. Lawyers ask for this. Don't shoot a messenger. The New Zealand law has encaptured us like we are just like your lawyer now.
Great thing to justify your fees.
Exactly.
The lawyers will charge for chasing around after all this documentation. At listing stage, we do it for free. But yeah, no, we need a copy of the trustees, and if they've had a change of trustee, we need a copy of the change of trustee. It gets worse, wait.
So how is this going to affect private sales?
Private sales will have to do it through their lawyers. So they will still have to provide it all, but they will have to provide it through their lawyers. So the cost of private selling will go up.
That's a perfect tool.
Yeah. Yep, no, we need a copy of the trustees. They need to fill this out, and every trustee that is on here also needs to fill out the individual form and provide ID. If they don't understand it, then
They're just going to stick a sign up at the end of the gate, go phone owner, blah, blah, blah. How do they capture it? How do they
they're lawyers. They can't do a sale and purchase agreement without the lawyers. The lawyers have to be compliant with this law just like we do. So you have to get your head around the fact that we are becoming more and more like the legal execs in this transaction, right? It's good, it's lifting the professionalism of our industry, so I'm trying to see it in a positive light, but a lot of people will see it as intrusive until they get used to it, and then we will all get on with it.
Well, it's got to be that same thing, isn't it? If you don't want to do it with us, go to the lawyer.
Well, no one else is asking me for this. It's like we shouldn't be listing with them because they're outside the law. Every single real estate agent, 11,000 of them around New Zealand, is currently being told exactly the same thing. Right? Everyone, unless they're not on top of it, in which case they will get caught. Because there is auditing and there is reporting, and it is not just set and forget.
Could be a damn good bit of marketing for bailies up here, isn't it? The outlook or something.
Yep.
This is what's coming to
Yep.
you first.
Yep.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
The bullet
Yep.
points.
So
People would think that ladies were the only ones doing that, perhaps. But no, it would be. that's
yeah,
what they've made
everyone
it.
has to do this.
This is what's coming. Yeah.
We've got a form that you guys will all have that you can put in your pre-list kits that basically says, under the law, we now need more information. This is not,
But you're right, the banks are doing it as well.
the banks are doing it. It's like walking into the bank, or like walking into your lawyers or your accountants. We're all used to the amount of people I've given my trust deed to recently. It's like, have it, whatever. I got so used to it, but this is, I've had 6 months of it.
I was just saying, we're just selling a property in Hamilton, and the lawyer's just asking us for scanned copies of all our passports and our bank accounts. And
There you go, right?
Yeah.
So that is the lawyer sitting there doing their AML
But you're
compliance.
not getting their bank balances, you're just getting their bank details.
No, you haven't got there yet, sir.
Information.
The rest, honestly, up to this point, I'm going, yep, that's okay, yep, that's okay, yep, that's okay. Right, go to I.
Oh my goodness.
Go to I. Enhanced customer due diligence. So, the Department of Internal Affairs has deemed trusts, any trust, as high risk for money laundering. As such, they fall under the category of enhanced customer due diligence, ECDD. That means that we need to, if we are listing something for a trust, provide details to evidence the trust's original source of wealth or source of funds.
That's unbelievable.
Now, when you think about it, most of the trusts we list for are just the wealth is the house, right? Isn't it? The wealth is the house. That's fine. You could actually ask the accountant or the lawyer just to confirm that the source of wealth of the trust is the house. So you could just get that. But we've got to get something. The other thing is, Mark and I were talking about, is going, oh, but we just need a bank statement from the trust. So if you had a bank statement, as long as it's got some income going into it, you know, that would be fine. We're ticking a box here, guys, but we have to tick the box. So, I mean, I think in really wealthy trusts or wealthy people, they'll just say, talk to my lawyer, which is fine, but we can't just talk to the lawyer verbally. We need something from the lawyer to verify that they have verified the wealth of the trust.
It has to prove where that money comes from.
Yep, because they reckon trusts are, you know, I mean, this is what's happening with New Zealand trust law now. The reality is, if there's a trust, the chances are they're getting trust accounts done every year, right? So they could just give you a copy of those accounts, that's enough. But they may choose to direct that through their accountant, that's fine. As long as we tick the box, guys.
And this has to be done before you can verify a listing.
Yeah. Can be done at the same time. You're not going to do it unless you list it.
But the listing's not going to be active until the paper is back.
Correct.
Does this application...
We can push it through if we're under time constraint.
Does this application have a validity period? If they sell a house,
Yeah.
the guy brings it to me to rent out.
You're fine, yeah, within 12 months.
I can use
Yep.
so the document's valid for 12 months.
Yep. So, I know it's not what you want to hear. It hasn't been popular around the group, I can assure you. But at the moment, I'm hoping the DIA will soften their position on this. But at this stage, we've been given very clear instructions that enhance due diligence for every trust.
So if it was a company, it's less paperwork.
No, company, there is, yeah, we don't have to do.
You don't have to do audit.
No. A company, there is still,
Something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay guys, so that's going to be the tough one, but we're just going to have to navigate it and find our way through it, okay? It is a lot more paperwork, but once it's done, and everyone is in the same boat. That's reality.
If you have to go back to current listings and everything to...
If you extend it after the 1st of January, the answer to that is yes. If you don't extend it and it's just a current listing as it is, no. So any listing dated after 1st of January, you need to do CDD. For a project, you need to do CDD for a project customer, but you only have to do it like once every 12 months. Does that make sense? Then look and get the ID
So
updated.
that's going to be more like to be a company, right?
Yeah, correct. Then you're doing a company
But if you had
CDD.
an individual who was selling, they sell one today and they come and list another one in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
Is the paperwork still valid?
No. Well, today they wouldn't need the paperwork.
No, sorry, let's say January.
Yeah.
And in March.
You could reuse, you would need to get them to fill the form out again,
Yeah.
but you could reuse their ID. I need to talk to you about that though, because there's Privacy Act issues. So enhanced CDD we've talked about. Where we consider that a customer type presents a higher level of risk to money laundering or terrorist financing activities, the following information is required to be obtained in addition to standard CDD. Information relating to the source of funds or the wealth of the customer. You don't need all of it, you just need something to tick the box, guys. Think about it like that. The reporting entity must, according to the level of risk involved, take reasonable steps to verify this information. So we know that trusts come in under ECDD, unfortunately, but individuals do not. Unless we think they're something like that.
And what happens if you let someone slip through? I mean, can you be held responsible?
No, pretty much. If you've done best endeavours, right? It's all about best endeavour, guys. The following customer types are considered to be higher risk. Trusts or other vehicle for holding personal assets. Foreign politically exposed people, those peeps, we have to do enhanced due diligence on them. Non-resident customer from a country that has insufficient anti-money laundering and countering financing terrorism systems or measures in place. So this was New Zealand. It's no longer New Zealand because we now have these laws. But if someone rings you from Nigeria and wants to list their property, then they fall under the enhanced CDD. Okay? There is a list of those countries, the managers will have it. So if you're unsure, then just let us know and we'll let you know if they fall into a high-risk country. And there's a company with nominee shareholders, which we wouldn't really have. So it must also undertake ECDD where if a customer seeks to conduct through the reporting entity, which is us, a complex, unusually large transaction or unusual pattern of transactions and have no apparent or visible economic or lawful purpose, where a reporting entity considers that the level of risk involved is such an enhanced due diligence should apply. It's unlikely you'll come across them. If you are unsure, you're best to just ask me. We'll talk about it and decide whether we think there's a risk there. So identifying suspicious activity, the fun stuff. So I need to train you on this. Whether you need, you just need to keep an eye out for sort of some red flags, if you like. But really, it's a matter of just talking to me and letting it be our problem. We don't want this to be your problem. But as a general rule, a suspicious activity will often be one which is inconsistent with a customer's known legitimate business or personal activities or the normal business for that customer. So, general indicators, customers using family members or third parties, fronting, and we have that quite a lot. It doesn't mean it's necessarily suspicious, but now it means that that front person also needs to be identified. Defensive stance for questioning or reluctance to provide CDD, including proof of income. Accounts operated by someone other than the account holder. Unrealistic wealth compared to client profile. Unusual business activity or transaction. 2 or more persons using the same identification.
And how do you know what the investigating is?
No, seriously, don't worry, you don't know. You don't know. It is only if something's obvious. They're not expecting us to be the police guys. They just want something, if there is something obvious, we report it. Okay? We don't need to second guess every transaction.
And you do that reporting yourself?
Correct. You guys don't do it, we do it. The company is responsible for that. You guys need to know that we're responsible for it, because if you see something, and it's not if you see someone out the back smoking a pen, right? That's your call. But it's a moral call whether you go to the police with that or not, right? Or you look the other way. I'm talking about property-related transactions. Okay? So it's not if someone's doing something dodgy, except as it relates to our transactions.
So, Kirsty,
Yeah.
would a management authority, a management contract, it be the same as a project? So would we have to do this for landlords every year?
No. For a landlord, it's fine to do it at this point. Just do it when you sign them up. You won't have to redo it.
So old landlords won't need to be...
The one DIA, and we're still waiting for, there's a lot of questions with them at the moment on property management. So at this point, we're going to do it for new managements moving forward from January, which would be, like couple of months or whatever it is. But no, we're not going to go back into it, and we're not going to redo it every year until we get told specifically.
And if you have suspicions,
On
are you supposed to be declaring those?
you talk to me about it. Yeah, correct. The answer is yes, Ruth. Ruth and I are basically the gatekeepers for the reporting, and for any suspicious activity report, it would go through Ruth and I.
I'll tell you what, Kirsty, it's going to be the agent that puts into a quick listing at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, no longer.
You're not going to do that.
No, you're not going to be doing that. But listen, we're dealing with $1 million, $2 million assets. Actually, you know, at the end of the day, doing in the old quick listing is a thing of the past. But
I'm sorry, we've got 12, 15 more days.
I know, right? Yeah, you have. But then the quick listing, you think about it, guys. 8 years ago, we were sitting here doing this for REA, getting our heads around the new rules there, and now it's just become status quo, you know? And I'm hoping they'll soften on some stuff, but at the end of the day, we can cope in the meantime, and let's just see how it rolls out. I think there will be some changes. I don't even think they know, you know, a lot of how this is going to roll out and how it's going to impact, and I think we'll find that out as we go. So real estate indicators. A customer sells a property below market value with an additional under-the-table payment. We've seen that. Customer purchases property without inspecting it. A customer is known to have paid large remodelling or home improvement invoices with cash on a property for which property management services are provided. Customer buys back a property that they recently sold. Frequent change of ownership of the same property, particularly between related or acquainted parties, or if a property is resold shortly after purchase at a significantly different purchase price without corresponding changes of market values in the same area. Classic example of something under the new laws that we would need to report. Joe, we sold a property for $1 million, and it had a 10% deposit, and from offshore buyer, and we received $1 million into the trust account, not 100. And, oh, sorry, I made a mistake. Just sent to my lawyer. So that would be classic red flag now in understanding these laws. And that's happened to us. That happened to us, what, a year ago, Joe? We're going, what the heck do we do with this money? You know, reality is, what we would have to do with this money now is send 900,000. We're legally entitled to keep 100 as the deposit. We would send 900 back to the exact source bank account that it came from. We would say, no, we cannot have this money. We cannot transfer it. It must go back to you. Because again, if we just forward that on, that's just cleaning it as we go, right?
What comes from a clean bank account?
Comes from a clean bank account.
Trust account.
Yeah.
Right, so that's a classic example. The other classic is, I want to pay 40% deposit. They're just trying to put more money, so we've got to watch for that, unless there was a genuine reason to pay 30 or 40% deposit instead of 10, which would be New Zealand standard. Actually, no, you know, I'm not comfortable with that. Or you're comfortable with it, accept it, but do CDD on the purchaser.
Because sometimes it happens in a negotiation.
Yeah, it does. And if it's in a negotiation for genuine reasons, it's fine. Correct. And then you just sort of, does that make sense? Those are classic examples. People paying big deposits on conditional contracts, like development type land, that sort of stuff, where they have no intention of going ahead, but they're putting 500 grand into our trust account, and then it sits in our trust account for 30 days, and then it comes back out again. When it falls over, we clean it by then sending it back. Now, under new law, we will not send it back to them, we will send it to their lawyer, and at the end of the day, that's all we can do.
We suggest to them to pay it to their lawyer to then pay to us.
Correct. There are in projects, there are lawyers now saying they will not receive funds directly from purchasers where they are holding the deposit. They want it to come from their lawyer. because then it sits with their lawyer to verify them. If a lawyer is receiving funds directly from a purchaser on a subdivision and holding it in their trust account, they will have to do the CDD on that purchaser, every single purchaser. So they don't want to do that, so then they're getting it through the lawyers. So they won't accept deposits directly from bank accounts. Does that make sense? Unless it's a lawyer. So there's all that sort of stuff starting to happen, which is cleaning it up, which is great. So reporting suspicious activity. To report unusual activity, you must complete a UAR. So what you guys will do, if you think there's something, it has to be pretty obvious. You can't sit on it for a month. You have to report it quickly. We've got a 3 working day requirement under the law to report something really dodgy. We report unusual activity through a UAR. That form comes to Ruth or myself directly. Okay? The AML code, so Ruth is our AML code and I'm the Director or Compliance Officer. You give it to us in person or you email it directly to us. The unusual activity you report will be investigated by the AML, so we're not going to automatically file an SAR. We'll look into it, we'll think about it, we'll discuss it and we'll decide whether we think it's dodgy. And may or may not result in the AML code submitting a suspicious activity report to the New Zealand Police. If you become aware of an unusual activity, you must not discuss this with anyone other than your compliance manager and your AML code. This is to protect your identity and ensure staff's safety. So you don't talk about it around the office, you must shut up and just give us a form and say nothing more. Okay, that is the law. It is also a legal requirement to avoid alerting or tipping off the client. You can't say, oh, I think this is dodgy, I don't want to act. All you do is you give us a report of what you think might be not right, and then you carry on. You keep acting for that person. You are well within legal rights to keep acting for that person. It's not like the REA where it's like they tell you, oh, my house leaks, but don't tell anyone. You can't act for that person. With this, you can act for that person. But we file it just quietly, we file an SAR, and then we carry on. It's the New Zealand Police job to decide whether they want to look into it or investigate it or not. Okay? We have done our bit and ticked our compliance box if we file it. This means, for example, you ensure that no copy of the UAR form is left where it might be seen by someone else at Bailey's. So you don't give it to the girls at front desk, you just give it to Ruth and I directly. Okay? So the 5 steps, we've gone over it, this is a summary. There are 5 steps to the AML when signing up a client. Understand your client type. You know, you get a title and it's got 2 names on it, so you don't know whether that's a trust or 2 individuals. You need to ask that question and make sure you do work out if it's a trust or an individual, because the compliance is different. Assign the client a risk rating based on client type. If they're an individual, their standard CDD. If they're a trust, their ECDD, and they fill out a separate form. Have your client complete the relevant form. Screen your client, which is get their IDs, and conduct the CDD. If you're face-to-face, it's going to be really quick and easy. Get your CDD approved. This is what sits with the girls. So what's going to happen? Property suites, the updates haven't happened yet, so Ruth and I are a little bit reticent to next week. Here we go. Next week is going to be a major update on property suites. That major update is going to, at the listing stage, create a link to a new service that we subscribe to, which is called InfoLog. InfoLog is like information sitting in the background about properties, ownership, people that are red flags, people that are peeps, all that is sitting on databases. We subscribe to InfoLog. When we enter an appraisal and click the right button on Property Suite, it will automatically create the forms we need with the names of the people that we need and print those forms straight out of Property Suite. Okay? So in other words, it's going to read whether it's a trust, it's going to print the trust form for you, and it's going to print the individual's forms for you with the individual names. You'll have all the forms. You're like, boom, okay, boom, I'm good to go.
Kirsty, just getting back to like screening a client,
Yeah.
CBD, like getting IDs, if you're sitting there with your client, they produce their passport, can we take a photo of that?
You can.
And
So-
otherwise, we're going to have to be bringing them back to the office,
Yeah.
photocopy
Yeah.
them, bring them back, and it's going
Correct. So if you are face to face, this is where the technology, so property suite's going to be crucial. The other thing that's going to happen is if you're with the client and their passport is there, you can take a photo. It must be with your phone and it must be emailed from your Bailey's email address, and it must be emailed directly to the girls' property suite email addresses. So the girls are going to have property suite email addresses. In other words, it's going to appear, it's not going to go through the email system into their inboxes, it's going to go directly onto their dashboard on Property Suite. And it's going to be, they're going to see it's from Graham Mann, it's going to have the address Carpentier Flat Road, and it's going to have a photo of a passport. And as soon as they get that, they're just going to upload that up into the documents up on Property Suite. Then Graham has to delete that photo. You have to delete the sent email, and it's done. But
Does that count as verification of that identification?
it does, correct. So as long as you take it with your phone and it's from your email address directly to the Property Suite
Why do you have to delete it, by the way?
for Privacy Act.
Oh, of course.
In the Privacy Act.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot of clients that struggle with all this.
I know.
Because we are.
I know.
They struggle with it.
I know. I've had 6 months to get try and get my head around this. I'm going like, shit, I'm not looking forward to this. But it is what it is. So yes, you can take a photo and you can email it and then you delete it. Okay? The girls will load that. The girls will load that onto the Property Suite, onto the documents. There will only be a very few number of people that can actually access those documents. You guys will not be able to access them because of the Privacy Act. Ruth and I will be able to. So if you need to get an ID from 3 months ago, and they say, well, you've already got that ID, you guys won't be able to access it. You have to go to Ruth and she'll be able to access it for you. Because of the Privacy Act, we don't want, those clients are going to go, well, hold on, if I give you this, does that mean everyone in Bailey's has got that? The answer is no, actually no. It's in a secure server that very few people can access, and the only reason we would access it is if the New Zealand Police asked us for it.
You're going to have to make 3-hour appointments and bring morning tea.
I know. Well, aren't you glad it's only the vendors? And at the listing stage, can you imagine if we're doing this at deal stage, guys? Seriously, that's what I was worried about. That is the good news. It's only at vendor stage and it's at listing stage when you have got more time. If it was at the S&P stage,
So who's doing that? The lawyers doing the S&P.
prior to settlement. So does that make sense?
They most probably know now that the amount of deals that are going to be dodgy from this point on are going to be
Well, correct, right? So this is going to clean up. Yeah.
Got the money.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will soften down.
Yeah.
$1.6 billion in
Yeah.
property.
It'll be interesting over the next year or two to see what happens, what the changes are, and whether they do sort of change our compliance and accordance, right? I don't know. We'll see. We can only but do what we're told to do now and see how that rolls out.
So these forms, Kirsty, once they're completed,
Yep.
what do they?
They get scanned and put up onto Property Suite with the property
In the secure.
and the secure documents where people can't access it. They are confidential. Then they must be destroyed. You do not keep a hard copy of that form.
So then they're there for your audit.
Yep.
That's what they.
But they can't be sent to Joe's at Bailey's email.
No, we want them sent straight to Property Suite because the problem you've got there is then they're in Joe's inbox. Then she's got to get them onto Property Suite. Then we're creating a trail of emails, sent and received and Privacy Act. They're going straight to Property Suite. The girls put them straight up into the secure documents and then they're deleted. You do not keep a hard copy. So Property Suite will generate the relevant client form for you once we've got this update.
Get a very hard copy for a moment, we'll make sure that we in fact shred those, not just screw them up, shred them out?
They can go in a secure document, or they can go, yeah, shred them would be fine. The end of the day, just throw them away. It's fine. Our we've got secure document stuff here. Does Fonga have too? Where's Kim? Yeah. I don't know. Okay, we'll have a look at that. You can have the client complete the client form before or at the same time as they sign a listing agreement. MRE must not sign the agreement until CDD has been satisfactorily completed. You should make clear to your client that MRE entering into the agreement is conditional and secure. So one thing we are waiting on is an update on our agency agreement. Our agency agreement at the moment is fine. Just carry on. We're waiting on some decisions from DIA on that, but we will have a clause in those new agency agreements that say our agency agreements are conditional upon AML, which means that we can actually carry on if we're missing some paperwork, right? Do you know what I mean? So worst case, you've got mum and dad have signed, they've given you everything, you've got mum and dad's IDs, but their lawyer's sitting in Hawaii on holiday, and you can't get the lawyer for another week. That's fine. The girls, with Ruth's permission, can push it through listing stage. They will take a note that they're waiting on some documentation, but we can carry on. And our agency agreement is valid.
What if they say, oh, we don't know who our lawyer is yet? So
You
there's sometimes
don't need the lawyers to trust.
You don't need a lawyer unless it's a trust.
Yeah.
So they can just fill out the individual form, give you their passport, and they're good to go.
It's done.
It's done. It's only the trusts that are going to be a bit difficult. The individual is quite straightforward. Fill out the form, get a proof of address, and get their passport.
So we should be the last ones to sign the listing form then?
Yeah. Question?
We do our documents go.
They're going to go on the cloud in a secure spot. As long as they're saved somewhere that's secure, it's fine. They just need to be scanned and saved somewhere that isn't accessible to the group. So it's fine.
Paperwork is not attached to the listing form per se.
It can't. Doesn't form part of the listing form, but is part of the listing process. But it will not form part of the listing form because it will depend on the type of listing and the type of entity as to what forms you need. So it will not form part of the listing form.
How does Property Street generate the client form when? So how are they going to know it's a trust?
They've got their info log has that information.
It's a separate database.
A separate database. They reckon they have it. I'm still to see it. They info log. This is what New Zealand Police use and what the Land Online and whatever. They reckon they will be able to read whether it's a trust or
So
individual.
if we go into Property Guru and see there's two names on it,
Yeah.
we could send this to them and they will say, no, this is a trust called, don't know the name.
Yeah. If you put it into the appraisal stage of Property Suite, it'll tell you.
Sometimes a title doesn't name the trust.
Yeah, the title's only here.
I know that. Listen, I haven't seen it work yet, but evidently the info log will tell you.
If it's a police-based database, it's pretty strong.
Evidently info log's going to tell us. I'm interested in that
Brothers
too.
watching us.
They've always had ability.
So does it be like me about 2 months ago, our lawyer, I had to do all this, remember I was going down to the community thing, which I'm trying to get things done with the community, so this will be why he would have done that.
Yep, all of that and getting everything verified. You had to do all of it. Drove you nuts? I had to do it. We had to do it with the Eves, up Whangarei, new bank. The bank, honestly, was unbelievable what they needed. They needed from all of us, and then again it was the lawyers, and it was this, and it was that. So if you've done a transaction in the last 6 months, you will have experienced it.
And our vendors will be the same, because I was getting done, I've been with you for like 40 years.
I know.
Why are you just doing this now?
Because of new AML legislation, I have to by law.
And you can understand, like, I just think now trying to open a bank account, say in England,
Yeah.
it's exhausting.
Yep.
But they're years ahead of us.
They're years ahead of us. They've been, in the UK, anyone from the UK, Mandy, this is standard for them. Standard.
They don't do anything by email.
No.
Everything's fast.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe how easy it was to open an account.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why people are now going to be changing accounts or changing lawyers or changing real estate agents, actually. Okay?
And actually, this is the reason why not to change the estate agent, because I already have that information on
Only
file.
33 years.
You've got to start again. So, what is acceptable document?
What if a vendor, after 3 months, goes to another
They'll have
agency?
to do their AML stuff again. We can't give them that ID because it's been destroyed and it's hard in a secure server. They will have to give it
That'll
to.
put them off.
So anyone goes to that,
We can't start.
3 months.
There's been discussion on that, whether we can start sharing documentation, and at this point the answer is no. Hell no. Yeah, but you think about it, if head office has a client, then they come to us to list something. Could we go to head office to get that documentation? Oh God, Bailey's has already got that.
Yeah.
Actually, legally, through the Privacy Act, they can't give it to us, we've got to get it again.
Is that because of being Mackey's?
Yeah, we're a separate reporting entity. So what is acceptable face-to-face identification? We've talked about this. The following are the acceptable forms of documentation ID where you meet with the client to do due diligence face-to-face. You'll need to take a clear copy of each document, sign and date that copy yourself to confirm you've cited the original. So you don't have to do that full blurb. Sign and date it saying yes, original, you know. This copy will need to be uploaded to Property Suite, right? So this document. Alternatively, you can simply take a photo of the document on your mobile phone and email it directly to your admin's Property Suite email address using your Bailey's email address. So once you've done this once, you'll have that Property Suite address in your phone. It'll just automatically come up, joe.brindley Property Suite, isn't it, or something like that? It's a bit more complicated, but once you've entered it once, it'll come up, you know?
So if they come into the office, will that be on the photocopy machine so that you could scan the document?
Yeah, send it straight up. Yeah, correct. It'll be put on the copiers straight up into Property Suite. It appears on the girls' dashboard.
So it's really desirable they come to the office actually.
Yeah, it really is. And look, if you can get them into the office, the lawyers don't go to their house for these reasons.
That's what I'm
And
thinking.
this is that you're right. They need to come into the office because you need to photocopy and they need to come. You know when you go to see a lawyer and they say, bring 2 forms of ID, bring this, bring that. This is what, and they'll have to do the same. Bring your power bill, bring your, you know.
If you are taking a photo of the passport and sending it off, you obviously can't sign it.
No, you don't need to. If you've taken it with your phone and it's sent from your Bailey's email address, that is you verifying it. Okay? So if you do this, you must delete the photo from your mobile phone and delete the email attached to the photo from your sent items immediately after sending it. Note that by taking the photo of the document, you're confirming you cited the original and that the document matched the identity of its owner. It is for this reason that the photo must come from your phone and from your Bailey's email address. So that is the only situation you can take a photo.
Will Property Suite email send us confirmation of receipt?
No, it will not.
So we can't check to see if it's been receipted?
No, you can't. So keep it for a couple of hours just to make sure that the girls have got it. Once we get used to the system, we'll gain confidence in it. But no, you won't get a receipt. So who can certify documents?
If they deleted it, next day the girls
Yeah, but actually you can go into get your deleted items. So I mean, you just pull it out of deleted items.
Yeah.
Don't, you know, it's just sitting in your deleted items. Who can certify documents? There they are there. A chartered accountant, lawyer, police employee, JP, notary public.
Why are we not then?
Because we can't certify someone else's documents for other reasons. We can certify their document for our reason. It doesn't mean we are legally entitled to certify all documents for everyone.
And they don't have to sign their own documents, I mean, like before they go on to someone else to confirm that it was them.
No, they need to get it certified. I mean, if you want to go and get it certified, I do that all the time. Go over to the lawyers, they have to have the original and the copy. They check it, they go, yep, cool, certified.
Only if you're unable to cite it yourself.
Correct, only if you're unable to cite it. So this is only if you can't get face-to-face, guys.
Offshore or down.
Yep, that's it. All ID, proof of address and other due diligence should be loaded into Property Suite and deleted. In order to meet our obligations under the Privacy Act, copies of all due diligence documentation must not be kept or stored anywhere other than Property Suite. All copies of documents containing personal information should be deleted from your mobile phone and email account. You should not keep backup copies on your laptop or anywhere else. So these things don't go into the file, okay? Because it's personal information, it's just getting around that Privacy Act thing.
You've got to be careful about failures archiving too, don't you?
Correct. Yep.
They archive.
That's why you delete it.
And delete.
Eventually, you know, at the end of the day. Client forms are mandatory for all clients. The client form must be completed by the client itself, or you may work with the client to complete the form. So you may work with someone to complete it, you may not complete it for them. The client or their authorised representative must sign the declaration in the client form confirming the information provided is correct. Your admin or manager will check that the client form and the standard or simplified CD have been correctly completed before a listing will go live on this week. There is such a thing as simplified CDD. It is only applies to banks, because banks are certified. So you can do simplified. Imagine trying to find the owner of ANZ, you know? I mean, good luck. So somewhere in Oz, there'll be someone who holds maybe 25%, who knows? But yeah, so banks are simplified CDD and government departments are simplified CDD. Apart from that, everyone's normal CDD, okay? Those are your compliance officers.
So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Ruth and myself. So Ruth is for the admin girl, she's the first port of call. Ruth's going to be the one that's going to be rolling out property sweep, making sure it's working, keeping our licensing. There's a massive amount of online reporting annually for us to do. Any of the suspicious activity reports, anything like that, it's going to be Ruth and myself. So those are, you guys are easy with that, because you know who we are. So, I know there'll be lots of questions, but let's just do a couple of exercises. Guys, I don't know how this is going to roll out. We're just going to have to do it and get on with it, and then there'll be questions. You know, we expect those. We'll deal with them as we get them, all right? Let's just do the best we can. And
Kirsty,
yeah.
we just said our stuff's going to be a nightmare with 2 trusts.
Yeah, correct. Yep. Yep. Our stuff's a nightmare too. Has everyone got handout 2? Handout 2. Thank you, Dale. Let's do handout 2 and handout 3. We'll do handout 3 while we're at it. There's handout 3.
How many handouts are there?
There's 4. They've got the numbers on the front. Handout 3. So handout 3 is important because there's a quiz on handout 3 that we're going to do together, and you're going to fill it out, and then you're going to give it back to me, and that is you confirming that you've done the training. And we have, as well as all of this lovely reporting we have to do, we also have training manuals that we have to register that have you guys trained, you know. So this is us, we need you to fill this out and do that. So that's why I need you here. And that's why anyone who's not here at this training will not be allowed to list anything from January the 1st until we've done the training. Handout 3, we got it? A few of them. Yeah, so that's their issue. They won't be listing anything. That's their problem. They're going to be a bit hungry in January when I'm away, and we've got a week to do it. Okay. Do they know that? Yep. A couple of people are texting me saying that they can't come at the last minute, and I'm going to text back going, that's fine, but you're not allowed to listen to anything from 1st January onwards.
And I'm going away for a month.
Will they watch the video?
That's why Ryan is being kind to them and videoing it. But they will have to watch the video, they'll have to do this activity handout 2, and they will have to fill out and do the form activity 3 with either Ryan or myself. Because you can imagine, actually, we can't let people just go rogue. It's just... Yeah. Now here's the thing, there is auditing requirements every 2 years, but we are required to audit you 3 times a year. So 3 times a year, Ruth will be undergoing an auditing program, which will entail her selecting a number of listings and going through and documenting everything and making sure everything's there, and obviously alerting me and alerting you and your manager if it's not. So, as well as our own external auditing we have to do as part of our compliance internal auditing. So it's quite full on, eh?
Admin will be doing that anyway.
Pardon?
Admin will be doing that anyway.
Admin will be the gatekeepers, right? Admin will have certain capability, but there will only be so much they can do, and if there's stuff missing, they actually need Ruth's permission to push it through. So at the appraisal stage of Property Suite, it cannot go through the listing stage without all clear. So admin will be the gatekeepers on it anyway. But it is good to know that we do have to audit it 3 times a year. And what Ruth's going to do is audit it more frequently to start, to help us all, you know.
So it becomes quite imperative that we're putting in every property that we're appraising, so that those forms are created, so that agents can go into properties.
Well, you can't, correct. So now what's going to happen, as I understand it, and Ruth and I are waiting for the update to really get our head around this, but as I understand it from here on in, Ruth, if we want to enter appraisals, we can still enter appraisals at appraisal stage.
Yep, so you can still enter your property, your client, and your reminder follow-ups, and just monitor your appraisals as normal. And then when you get to the pre-listing stage, you get your admin to certify the owner and the address, print off the forms you need, take that with your listing pack.
Does that make sense?
And get it
So you can still do the appraisal stage, but you won't be able to go and list something unless it has been entered as an appraisal, so that you can then get the forms.
Can you list now and put the start date on it, 14th January next year?
No. If it's dated 14th of January, you will need the CDD. Do you know what I mean? So anything dated January onwards, you'd need CDD. If you date it 31st of December, you could list it now. But anything, any listing form, so yeah, you'd need to date it now.
The start date.
Correct.
Who puts the appraisals in Property Suite?
At the moment, on a weekly basis, the girls do.
And our meetings here.
Yeah.
So now, so it's going to bring that up. Understandably, not everyone wants to put every appraisal that they're doing up on that stock sheet. That's absolutely fine. But you'll just have to either do it yourself or pass it on to administration before you get to the point where you need to list.
Should be
If you don't want it up on the stock sheet, that happens automatically. If you put it on the stock sheet, it all happens for you. But if you don't want to put it up on the stock sheet, for whatever reason,
You just need to let the girls know. They enter it, and then they produce the forms for you before you go and list it. Okay?
But they will have the names of the...
They will automatically populate if they get the property address.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when you go to list something, you don't need, this is what InfoLog's going to do for us, you don't need to be waiting for a title to go and list something.
So there's no spontaneity in real estate.
No, there's not.
Well, there can't be anyway.
Yeah, the spontaneity is pretty much gone. But then, is that a bad thing in a professional, when you're dealing with $1 million assets? You know, I don't know. But no, you're right. But you don't need to get a title. InfoLog through Property Suite will give you the owner's details. Does that make sense?
We'll only do that at pre-listing stage because there's a cost involved, so we won't do it.
There is a cost involved every time we do it, so we're not going to do it for every single appraisal we do because that doesn't make sense. We'll do it for every listing we do. Yeah, but when you're listing it, when you enter it just as an appraisal because you want a reminder to follow them up in 3 months' time, we won't be, there's a certified, you can either choose to get it certified or not. You'll only get it certified if it's actually your listing rate.
How long does it take?
Oh.
Immediate.
Immediate.
So we could do that. We certainly were going to go and do one this afternoon. We can introduce an appraisal, print out the forms.
No, you can't do it. The girls have to do it.
It has to be admin. It can't be PA. So if they're not here.
Oh no,
it's
it depends. What
outside hours.
Yeah.
So we can only do real estate and working hours now.
No, you can No, you can take a form that will be available on the cloud. Yep, take it and do it manually. Absolutely. And go off property suite if you have to, if you can't get a title, which is what we do now.
We get the property smarts.
Yeah, correct. So property smarts will give you that owner, do the manual forms. But if you want it off property suite to certify it, to get the forms off property suite, the girls will have to do that.
You can always pull those forms out, double check and fix them up.
Yeah, correct. You just do it, man. You just do those forms. There's plenty of companies not using InfoLog or Property Suite that are compliant, right? They're just getting the forms done, scanning and emailing them and storing them. So that's fine. We're trying to use the technology, but we can't give everyone access to InfoLog because that would be gone wild, really. Giving you far too much information. Right, let's have a look at the suspicious activity reporting. So this is everyday examples, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple of these examples and we're going to answer 3 questions. On the current facts, are there sufficient grounds to report an SAR through to the police? B, what else might we seek to assist us in investigating the matter? C, what circumstances would make the scenario less or more suspicious? So the mother-in-law. You've been dealing with Mr. Smith as part of appraising what you understood was his residential property for sale. When time comes to list the property, he indicates that it is mother-in-law whose name is on the title, so she will need to sign the agency agreement. Mr. Smith has indicated he will handle any negotiation on the property because his mother-in-law relies on him for this sort of thing. No, actually, it's not. It's actually not. I know. It's actually not. It's something that happens all the time.
I know, and I know sector-wise
Exactly that. Now, the reality is it happens all the time. It's fine. But we don't need to report an SAR on that. However, what do we do need to do? We need to get CDD on this person, Mr. Smith, as well as the mother-in-law. Don't we? Under the new law. So, that's fine. Get CDD done on both. Just ID both of them. What would make this scenario more suspicious is probably if you can't talk to the mother-in-law. Right? If she's locked in the basement, you can't talk to her, then that might be a little suspicious. But if she's in arrest home, then you're going to need that ID, or you're going to need to go in and visit her and take a photo of her passport. Just have a quick little 2-minute, or get a certified copy. And you're going to need to know that she gives permission for Mr. Smith to act. And that's just a quick phone call to say, is it okay? Under new AML law, I need your permission for Mr. Smith to act. Unless he can produce a power of attorney. In which case, of course he can act. He's got a legal document that says he can. But if he hasn't got a power of attorney, then actually you need to speak to the mother-in-law to get
or the lawyer.
Or the lawyer.
A power of attorney has.
But I would suggest
limited life as well.
Yeah, you need a non-revocation. So if you've got a power of attorney, you also need that non-revocation, remember, which basically says that power of attorney is still in effect.
Is that for a year?
I think non-revocations last for 3 months, 4 months. And it's not very long for a non-revocation. I think it'll say it on the form. We've got non-revocation forms on the cloud. But no, they don't last that long because situations change. People can withdraw their power of attorney and people can walk around with a power of attorney document. So if it's withdrawn, that's why you need a non-revocation.
Or a jury.
And a jury, correct.
Don't you have to get to that front person, even that, like if they've got a power of attorney, don't you still need to?
You need to get the non-revocation. No, you don't need to get to them. If they've got the if they've got a power of attorney and a non-revocation.
So, non-revocation is correct.
But you still have to give your ID or not?
I need to double check actually, I'm not sure. Yeah, it would depend if it was a trust or an individual, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like, yeah, if they're a trustee, then they're absolutely.
Yeah.
If they're an individual, I think the power of attorney, yeah, correct. So I just double check that actually. So that's that example, guys. The overseas buyer and the accountant. You've been contacted by a local accountant, Miss Bean, who says she is an overseas client who is looking to purchase a number of small commercial properties. The accountant has indicated that neither she nor the purchaser will need to inspect the properties provided they fit within the appropriate price range. So on the current facts, is there sufficient amount to report an SAR? No, actually, that's okay. Commercial properties, often the buyer won't view them and the buyer could well be offshore. However, in my view, it would be enough to tip CDD. Does that make sense? So, no, don't report an SAR just on that, but if they were prepared to provide you with ID, then that might be suspicious. And you can say to the accountant, absolutely, I can act for you, but you're acting on behalf of someone, so I need some identification and I need to do some client due diligence on that person.
So what do you need from the accountant?
The accountant's fine. You would need, in that individual form, that CDD form, an authorised person,
Right.
is so their accountant would go in there. Correct.
But you don't have to worry about any of this until the point of potentially doing your transaction.
Correct. Correct. So if they're just inquiring, you're fine to just take it on face value, right? But if you go further along, you still haven't met the buyer, you've never spoken to the buyer, you don't even know the buyer's name, you're dealing all through the accountant, then I would,
And they want to make an offer.
and they want to make an offer, I would suggest if you rang me and asked my opinion, I would say do CDD on the buyer.
Can't they either buy or sell purchase agreements? It's the lawyer's job, isn't it?
Well, at this point, in this example, you haven't got a lawyer, you've got an accountant and a buyer. You were dealing with a lawyer, then they would need to do the S&P. So at that point when they make an offer, certainly going through the lawyer would make a lot of sense. But if the accountant rings up and says, send me an S&P, see what I mean? There is a chance you could get that without any lawyer being involved. What they're saying is they don't want that. They want, you know?
So how does it work at auction? We're in a situation in that in auction, we've seen the gentleman on site 4 times, haven't seen the wife, and a group of them turned up with a representative, and the representative and the gentleman did the bidding and the discussing, and then disappeared, and the wife sat down to fill in the sale purchase group.
Yep.
Or the person's a person.
Suspicious, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely different names.
But, I know, but reality is, under this law, we would not have a responsibility to do CDD on that buyer because we, don't have to do it on the buyer. The lawyer, prior to settlement, would need to do it on that buyer. But, this is where I thought we would get to, is that we would have to start registering buyers for auction. But the REA do not want us registering buyers because it goes contrary to their policy of that anyone who wants to make an offer can make an offer and has a right to make an offer. And if a buyer wants to come to a public auction and have some sort of privacy, then they are within their rights to do that. So the REA will not mandate. I know, but you see, this has been happening for 12 months between the DIA and the REA. This is their decision. They give us the direction, we do what we're told. But the REAA do not want to mandate registration of buyers at auction.
So Mr. B comes in and buys a property under the 10% of the vendors go, shit, thank God for that, we'll go off and we'll go unconditional on that one over there, and then he gets poo-pooed, 3 weeks later, can't buy it, and I've already paid a deposit on the next one.
Yep.
And most people have gone off and brought something.
Well, how is he poo-pooed?
Oh, through the lawyer.
No, at the end of the day, guys, that transaction can still happen. Just because there might be suspicious activity does not stop the transaction. Okay? That will still happen. But the lawyer's obligation is to report it, not to stop it. And our obligation is to report it, not to stop it. If there is something suspicious, we do not stop. We continue to act for these people. We're doing all these deals, don't you worry. But we must report it. That is the point.
But surely, Kirsty,
we're not the police.
If you're not registering buyers at auctions, isn't that contravening the OIO?
That is why we're signing those forms as we do the sale and purchase agreement and not waiting for the lawyers to do it upon settlement.
We mentioned at the beginning of the auction as well that anyone bidding today is bidding, being informed about the IO form.
It shows we've asked the question.
Still there's overlapping, isn't it?
Correct. Well, you think about it, OIO cleaned up a shitload of our money laundering in my view.
Yeah,
because most of it's been offshore from, a certain country that we all know about.
If someone's bidding at auction and paying a 10% deposit, they're not trying to launder money, surely, because they're paying a 10% deposit that's not refundable if they don't go through with the transaction. So it's not the kind of place that you'd expect that to take.
So at the end of the day, it is about reporting the activity, not stopping the activity. It's not our job to stop it. It's our job to report it. And it's the lawyer's job to report it too.
So
but,
sorry, I might just take you. But if, say for example, it is money laundering.
Yep.
And 3 weeks later it all turns to custody because the guy can't get his money in and the police will open like a rash.
Then the police will seize the possessions. That's what under the Crimes Act. Well then they'll stop the transaction. It won't happen.
But then what about the person that...
Well that happens anyway. People pay a 10% to put on an auction and run off back to their country and don't settle. We've had that.
Yeah,
We've had that.
It's more likely to happen on the OIO, isn't it?
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct. Correct. So, but yeah, it's not our job to stop the transaction. It's not the lawyer's job to stop the transaction. It's their job to report it. And it's up to the police to then get involved and use the law. And if it turns out that that is, money laundering, the deal will still go through. By the time the police catch up with it.
They're highly unlikely they captured it.
Correct. By the time they catch up with it, the property would have well settled. It'll be 12 months later and they will seize it as part of the Crimes Act. Okay? So a mixed settlement. You've been acting for a vendor on the sale of a lifestyle block. There's not been much interest. A prospective purchaser has come forward and is offering what seems a reasonable price, although settlement will be a combination of funds and other assets, although it is unclear what form these assets may take. Given the previous lack of interest, the vendor has indicated they're willing to accept the offer. The amount on the sale and purchase agreement will be just for the funds amount, although you will receive a commission based on the total consideration. So, what do we think about that? I know. I said it sounds like a John Barnett deal. He didn't like that very much. It can happen where they're trying to put other assets into a deal, but the money value, you're getting paid on the total amount. It's not legit. There's no way you'd let your vendor do it without their lawyer being fully involved and appraised of the transaction, and I would report it. If you gave me those details, I would report that. Okay. So we wouldn't need much more information. All we need to do is report it. It's up to them. They'll then do the digging, come to us if they need more information.
Will that take all trades into consideration?
Trades, no. No, trades are fine. Trades are legit. This is unclear as to what form the assets may take. So the trades are not going on an S&P as a legal title. It might be a bloody Ferrari and a Porsche, you know, thrown in from drug money or whatever, right? Diamonds, there we go. That's a good idea. Diamonds, or I like the Ferrari idea, but that's good. That would be
Get commission on the whole amount, not just on the cash.
yeah, possibly. But at the end of the day, we would just report it, and the end of the day, we can do an S&P, but we can only get paid on what the amount is on that S&P as per our agency agreement. So getting paid on the total consideration, I would have thought is not possible. Certainly, I would let us take it. You recently sold a residential property for $750 to Mr. and Mrs. Stone, which you considered was in line with the market and a good result for the client. 2 months later, Mr. and Mrs. Stone had made a complaint as they've become aware that the property has been sold twice since then, each time for substantially more than they sold it for. As part of your research, it appears that it's supposed to be Mr. and Mrs. Stone were right. The property appears to have been sold twice, firstly for $900 and then for $1,050,000. In both cases, the name on the title appears to be a lawyer's trustee company. Shady Lawyer Trustee Company 1, Shady Lawyer Trustee Company 2. Do you report that? Yeah. Not our problem, okay? You could argue that, oh, well, it had nothing to do with us. But the reality is we are now professionals in a professional role in property transactions. And if that came into our knowledge that was specifically property related, then I would want to file something because it would be the right thing to do.
So maybe Mr. and Mrs. Stone, what do you say to them?
Mr. and Mrs. Stone would get a formal response. If they've complained, every person who complains gets a formal response from us. And part of that formal response would be to let them know that we've taken the appropriate legal steps. Because we, you know,
we wouldn't talk about it anymore.
We wouldn't talk about it anymore. But they would get a response. They wouldn't be told we've filed an SAR because we're not allowed to tell them that. But we would tell them we have taken the appropriate legal steps.
Is that only for our transactions? What if you've heard of another agency?
It would be, you'd have to talk to me about it, and if it was something that we felt that we could prove, like here, you've done the research, you've got a title that shows 3 transactions and the prices have all come up on Property Smarts, all looking dodgy, you'd be going, actually, that's not right. We know that's money laundering. They're just moving assets and increasing values to hide money. Right, we're not going to do, Sandy, you can read that other one, but it's actually commercial property. So you read that other scenario down. Handout 2 is done. Handout 3, this is the important one. Hold on. Somewhere, here we go. I've got the answers. What we're going to do, guys, is we're going to do this together. I'm going to help you with it. We'll talk about what the answers are, and then you're going to write your names on the back, hand it in to me. Ruth has got a lovely register that your name will go on, and a tick beside your name that you've done anti-money laundering training. All right? So this is our way of keeping a track. And then just after that, there is a handout 4. Did I give you 4? No. There is a handout 4. We're not going to go over it, but I am going to give it to you as reading, and it's actually really handy. It is frequently asked questions. So as you go, can you please grab handout 4? I'll tell you why handout 4 is handy, because it answers questions like, how do I determine if my client has a beneficial owner? How do I determine if someone is acting on behalf of my client? What do I do if I'm provided with a power of attorney? What do I do if my client writes trading as on the client form, which the commercial guys will get? What do I do with respect to the client's accountant? Who is the client for a deceased estate? It's a good question, right? So it tells us exactly what to do for a deceased estate. They are acting on behalf. So I'll talk to their, So you need a letter of administration including probate, death certificate, will, there's all sorts. So the lawyer, well, but I mean, we don't list deceased estates without dealing with the lawyer anyway. And if probate has happened, then the title, it was changed, and then you're okay. It's only if probate hasn't happened, you see what I mean? Where the title is different from what we need it to be, because if the executors are on the title, you've got your people to ID.
We just had one Carol's Place where they hadn't transferred the title and we spent the money
Yep.
twice.
Yeah.
So that does happen.
It does happen. So therefore you would need to deal with the lawyer and you would need some detail. Okay, what do I do if the documents attached to a client form are not in English? It's a good one. All documents need to be translated into English.
Where are you reading this from?
Oh, I'm giving you this. I'm just quickly. This is handout 4 that you are getting, but I just wanted to go over a couple of them. How detailed does the source of wealth information need to be for the sale of a family home? Okay, you need to read that. Here's one I wanted to talk to you about. My client says no other real estate agent is asking for this detailed information. This is unlikely, as all real estate agents are required to comply with the Act. Failure to comply can result in a personal fine of up to $300,000 or 2 years imprisonment, or a fine for bailies of up to $5 million. A client refusing to provide the information required might be a red flag for unusual or suspicious activity. So,
insurance up again?
Yeah, don't worry, our insurance is already through the roof, as you can imagine. So yes, our professional indemnity insurance covers our compliance with AML. So we have insurance, but guys, we're not going to end up in prison for forgetting to grab a form, but we need to make best endeavours. If there are cowboys out there, and we may come across them, that are not compliant, then you should recommend to vendors that they speak to their lawyer and they do not list with them. Because anyone who's not actually complying under the law, is going to get caught. They absolutely will get caught. If you do not comply, there is auditing, there is checking, there is reporting. If they're not doing it, they will get caught quite quickly.
But will a vendor be tempted to go with them? Because it's not going to affect the vendor.
Well, it is going to affect the vendor, because if they're not doing compliance at this stage, what else are they willing to do?
That's the only way you're going to be able to play there, because that's what's going to happen.
Private sales, they will have to do all this through their lawyer. So there's no way to avoid it. It is now New Zealand law. How do I know if a Hong Kong identity card is valid ID? So there's just some good questions in there. So I want you to just grab form 4 as you go. Okay, let's do these questions. How are we going? Cool. Receipt of a cash deposit puts us at risk at what stage of money laundering? Placement, A. Answer's A. Everyone knows that, well done. You act for the vendor. The purchaser wishes to pay the deposit of $50,000 to you in cash. If we accept the deposit, which of the following must we do? A. File a suspicious activity report directly to the police. B. File a prescribed transaction report. C. We cannot accept cash as the AML prevents us from doing so. Or D. Undertake customer due diligence on the purchaser. So actually, the answer on this one is B. You guys don't need to know that, because if it's cash, you just need to tell me and Ruth and Ruth and I know that there's such a thing called a PTR, prescribed transaction report. Anything of cash needs to be reported. And then D, we need to undertake customer due diligence on the purchaser.
So it's both at the end.
It's B and D, both answers. In which circumstances must we undertake enhanced CDD? Choose all relevant circumstances. A, our client is a trust. Yes. B, our client is an estate. No. C, the vendor is a company with shares held by a lawyer's nominee company. Yes. D, the property is valued at more than $1 million. No. Value is irrelevant. So the answer to that is A and C. In which circumstances do we not need to undertake CDD on the purchaser? A, the purchaser presents $10,000 or greater cash deposit to you. Yes, we do need to do CDD on them. You act, that's supposed to be buyers. You act as a buyer's agent for the purchaser. Yes, you've got a buyer's agency, you need to do CDD. C, the purchaser deposits $10,000 or greater into your trust account at the bank. No, that's fine. We don't need to do CDD on that person. D, you're required to refund the deposit from your trust account to the purchaser to an account other than where it was originally paid. Yes, CDD. We ain't doing it. We're not doing it. The answer is we ain't doing it. That's the easiest way to get around that. Okay, 5. When our client is a discretionary trust, in addition to getting the trust deed, we must collect ID documents for which individuals. Choose all relevant circumstances. The lawyer accountant who prepared the trust? No. The settler of the trust? Yes. The trustees of the trust? Yes. The beneficiaries of the trust? No. We need to name their type or name them. We do not need to do CDD on them. So the answers to that is B and C. 6. Which combination of documents is sufficient to verify name and date of birth of an individual? This is a trick question. New Zealand driver's license plus utility bill? No. New Zealand birth certificate plus bank statement? No. Remember, the utility bill is only for their verification of address, not for ID. New Zealand driver's license plus valid and current international driving permit? No. New Zealand driver's license plus bank statement? Yes. So the only combination there that works is D. The forms tell you this, guys. You're not going to need to know it. The forms, just use the forms. It's paper numbers. Which of the following is not a captured activity? Acting as a buyer's agent for a purchaser? That is captured. We know that. Negotiating a residential tenancy for a property owner? No, that is not captured. Tenants are not captured. Reality is, Sandy gets those details. She normally would get an ID from the tenant anyway, but under the AML, she is not required to undertake CDD on a tenant. Acting for a vendor for a business sale? Yes, that is captured. Acting for a vendor in the sale of a real estate? Yes, that is captured. So the answer is B. So the sector risk assessment for real estate rates the sector at what level of risk? You guys don't need to worry about this, but if you want to read our risk assessment, Ruth and I have done 4 manuals, haven't we? Have we got 4 manuals? We've got that many manuals. I've lost count of. I've been working on these manuals for months. Do you think I do nothing?
Yes, did you say 7 was
7 was B. The DIA has mandated that the real estate industry in New Zealand is B, medium to high. So our risk assessment says we are medium to high.
What would I be?
High is banks. Banks are high. What else is high? Huh? Shares, yeah, shares finance behind. So yeah, we are medium to high. 9. You've begun to suspect that your client may be involved in money laundering. What should you do? A. Inform the client that you no longer act as you may be required to file an SAR. No. Don't do that. Who knew we were in such a dangerous industry? B. Inform your AML compliance officer. Yes, that is the answer. Kirsty or Ruth need to know. Make it our problem. C. Seek a declaration from your client as to the validity of their assets. No. Don't start asking for that. Report your suspicion to the nearest police station in writing within 3 working days. No, don't do that either. Right? Now, If you do suspect money laundering, it's unlikely. You will have already told me about it, I would think, or Joe might have seen it in the trust account anyway, you know. But if you do see it, we do have quite strict requirements as far as timing. So we can't sit on it for a month. We actually have 3 working days to report something, Ruth, don't we? So if that scenario that I said I would have reported of the $1 million coming into our trust account, you guys didn't need to know about that. We dealt with it. It was fine. But if that happened next year, I would have 3 working days to report it, to do an SAR on it. Okay? Just so you know, we can't sit on it. We have to report quickly. Which is why you've got 2 of us, because if I'm away, then Ruth will do it. If Ruth's away, I will do it. So you've got to have more than 1 person so that there's 2 of us responsible, because we have to do it quite quickly. Okay, so the answer to that 9 was B. And the final question, which of the following statements is true? The AML Act carries both civil and criminal penalties for individuals. That is true. So in other words, dodgy lawyers, for example, right, that are letting stuff happen and not reporting it, or helping people, or accountants are captured, they may well have criminal penalties. The chances of us being involved, unless you were, and there have been cases where real estate agents have been busted for fraud, for assisting in mortgage fraud, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Through the REA. That could well now, under AML, have criminal penalties. That's the sort of thing that would come under criminal. Don't panic, you're not going to get criminal convictions if you're honest. Right? You have to be dishonest. It's a bit like the REA and the, getting, the disciplinary tribunal going up a stage. You've actually got to have committed fraud. You've actually got to go out of your way, to actually get that level. So you guys are all honest, so I know that's not important. So the answer is A. If we do not accept cash or cheques, we have no risk of money laundering. We know that's not true. We cannot act for anyone who is a peep. That's not true. We can act for them. We just have to do enhanced due diligence. And D, when acting for a vendor, if the vendor's solicitor has already taken CDD on the vendor, we do not also need to do the CDD. Unfortunately, it is not true. We have to do CDD on our vendors. Okay guys, that is us done for 2 hours guys, well done, 10 out of 10. And those of you that need some non-verified hours, you can have 2 hours of non-verified training. Ruth will sort that out for you. You can put that onto your, what do they call those logs, those training log things.